Hello everyone, welcome to Ryan's Workbench. Today what we're going to be working on is this Olivia box. It will be a 19-inch scale length cigar box guitar, and it will be fretless. That way I can play the slide. So this one has latches on the front and it has hinges. Not all cigar box guitars will have hinges, some will have just the hinge will be the paper. So this one's pretty nice. It is all made out of wood. I'm not going to sand down the top or anything, I'm just going to make it how it is. And it's going to have an oak fretboard. And it's going to have an oak neck. So let's get started. Alright, so the first step in making this cigar box is going to be cutting out the pocket for the neck. And the reason why we don't want to do that first instead of cutting the neck first is because if for some reason we find that this box isn't one that we want to use, like this Macanudo box, I started on it, but the inside turned out to be MDF, so I didn't want to use it. But if I had cut my neck for it, I'd kind of be stuck because I would have neck that is for this box and this box alone. So cut the neck slot first to make sure you want to use this box, and then after that we'll move to cutting the neck. So to cut the neck slot, what we want to do is we want to take some tape. I use blue masking tape, painter's tape, and we want to put it on the front, and I'm going to be going through the back and having the piece stick out for the strings, so we'll put it on the back too. Then we'll get our ruler and we'll measure the center, and then we'll measure 3/4 of an inch on either side, and then we'll measure 3/4 of an inch or 1.5 inches down. Then we'll make a box and then we'll cut it out. So let's get started. So we have the box taped, and so now the next step is to take our ruler and find out the center. This ruler has a center. So 0 and then 1 on each side. So what you do is you just make sure both sides are the same distance away, and then you'll have your center. So we'll do that real quick. Alright, so now that we have our center lined up, what we want to do is we want to mark the center, then we want to mark 3/4 of an inch on each side, because the wood we have is 1.5 inches wide. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our template and our little wood scrap template, and we'll put it on and line it up with the sides that we made, and then we'll trace the two sides, a bottom and another side. Alright, so now we have our square. And remember, when you're cutting it, cut on the insides of the lines, so that way if your square is slightly too large, that you won't make your hole too big. And then if you need to trim it up with a file, because that way you'll be more precise. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut down each side, and we'll come across kind of diagonally, and then we will cut this way. And that will allow us to cut this chunk out and then put the saw here and cut this way. So we'll have the sides and the bottom cut. And like I said, cut in the lines, don't cut the lines. That way you'll have the right amount if you That way you won't cut away too much. And I usually like to get something to hold the wood, or hold the lid. That way it doesn't flop down, because on the paper lids they can break if you do that. Also, if you're having trouble, just clamp down whatever you're working on and it'll make it so much easier. So just put a piece of wood in, clamp it down, and then you won't have to worry about it moving. Okay, so we did our diagonal cut, as you can see. And now we can flip around our blade. And we can cut the bottom. So as you can see, the bottom's a little bit uneven, so I'm going to clean it up with a file real quick. And now the test fit. So when you're doing this, just be careful, don't force anything. If it needs to be filed, it needs to be filed. You want to have a nice smooth fit. I can already tell this isn't going to fit. Might fit the bottom though. Nope, so I will have to do some filing. So as you can see, this fits in there really well, and it is flush with the top there. So that's what we want. Okay, so something I didn't realize is that I put the tape over the sticker. If you have a sticker here that you want to keep, don't do that, so that way, like you can see, it peeled a little bit away from here and here. So for future reference, that's something to keep in mind, but that's perfectly fine with me. So we pretty much do the same thing we did with the front, but the rear section tailpiece part will only have one layer of wood. so the heel won't go all the way through. If you want to put the heel all the way through, you can, but it is pretty thick, and I like the thinner look better. Functionally wise, it really doesn't make a difference. The nice part about using tape is that if you mess up on your template, then you can just remove the tape and then put on a new piece. Once you get your piece of wood to where you're happy with, you're pretty much done. Then you can take off the paper. This sticker probably is going to come off. Yeah. We'll just clean that up later with some probably soapy water. Because it's a paper sticker, it should just kind of disintegrate. I guess a razor blade would work too. Alright, so the next step is to go ahead and measure and mark for headstock. If you don't know, the headstock is where the strings go. It's where the tuners and the strings go. So I like on my guitar, my 19-inch scale length box guitars, I like a 3 3/4 inch headstock. And then what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to take our ruler and we're going to measure 19 inches from where we marked our headstock. So a 19-inch scale length is the distance from where the strings leave the nut to where the bridge is. And here's my 19-inch template. So it doesn't mean your fretboard is going to be 19 inches long. It means that the string spacing is going to be 19 inches long. So from the strings, from the nut to the bridge. So from our nut, we'll just put it on our line right there. This doesn't have to be extremely precise. It'll be precise when we set up the guitar. But it looks like the 19-inch mark is right about here. That's about where I want it. I want it about 2 inches from the end. Any more than that, and the string angle won't be enough from the tailpiece to the bridge, and so it won't have very good sustain. Any less than that, it'll look kind of weird because the bridge could be like right in the back. So we want our bridge to be right about there. I think probably like that. So 21 inches will be the end of the box for this particular box. So from the bridge to here, 21 inches, that'll be 19, and then 2 inches. That should work out pretty well. And then I like to have my tailpiece 1 inch. So now that we have that figured out, I think we can go ahead and cut out this piece. Alright, so here we have where the bridge is going to go. We have the end of the cigar box, and then we have where we want to cut. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that real quick, and then I will bring it back. Alright, so we have our neck cut to length. Now we need to cut the heel. Now there's not really any science behind the heel. In fact, I actually have a scrap piece here that I might use. I think it might be a little bit too long. Yeah, I'm going to say that's going to be a little bit too long. I think we probably want something maybe like that. Yeah, we'll go something like that. So I'll mark for it. And I will cut it out. Alright, so you can see that the heel and the neck fit in their pockets really nicely. No more filing is needed. The pockets are almost too big. In fact, the wood that I used for the neck is, I guess, a little bit smaller than the template that I had. So that's something to keep in mind if you do use a template. So now it's time for gluing. I personally use Gorilla Wood Glue, mainly because it is really not removable by any way, like heat or water or anything. So it will stay glued forever. Now the downside to that is that it will stay glued forever, so any maintenance that has to be done on these will pretty much be impossible. Now's the part where I get all of the clamps that I have and clamp it down. Well, that's all glued up right now, so pretty much all for this video, I guess. The next steps will be probably to cut the slot in the neck for the lid of the box, and probably drill the holes for the tuners and cut down the headstock 1/8 of an inch. And we'll probably cut the fretboard to length, and we might glue that in the next video. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good day.